Hi everyone, let's talk about this. Triángulo de Amor Bizarro is the name of not only this album, but also the band behind it, which I stumbled upon perusing the radio music charts. I clicked on this because I was kind of curious whether or not this was like a drone or ambient album, because it looks exactly like that on the album cover. It's just this gray blob for something. I mean, you can see it for yourself, it's right there. But I was like, I want to see if this is a drone album, an ambient album, because up until this point, I've not been the hugest fan of like drone music or ambient music. I mean, certainly there are highlights in the genre for me, but sometimes it can be a little too noisy. However, I did not find a drone ambient album. This is more or less like an indie rock album, a shoegaze album. And when I actually stumbled across this, I initially thought this must have been a new band or something. But no, this band has been around for over a decade. Forming in 2004 in Spain, they've been making music in the same vein as this since 2007. And what's funny enough is that none of their album covers look anything like this. They're a little more colorful, they're a little more involved, there are a lot more figures. The closest I would imagine is their debut self-titled album, which is just their name, but it's zoomed in on a portion of a name. So initially I noticed that, and then I first thought, well, this might have been a change of pace for the band. In some way it is, but it still resembles a lot of their older material as well. This album has a very kind of cavernous feel to it. It almost makes me feel a little claustrophobic. The sound is really around you rather than in front or behind or one side to the other. It's really encompassing you. And there are elements of a little bit of like noise that come into play here and there, like on the song Fukushima, which there's, I don't know what it is, but it's an audio clip that's been stretched out to the point where you can hear almost like these stretch marks in the audio form, and it's just very apparent, something that a technician would probably want to patch together. They just kind of leave it underneath all the instrumentation. Throughout this record, you have two main vocalists, a male and a female. I personally prefer the female vocalist. However, that is not to discredit the male vocalist, because there are some moments on this record where the vocals that he delivers particularly can overpower the mix that he's on, but it's not to the point where it sounds like it's mixed improperly. It's almost this overwhelming, energetic feeling that he's giving off, which for the instrumentals that he's on works very well. Like the third track, Vigilantes del ESPEJO, which I apologize if I'm mispronouncing, but this is probably a song that resembles their older material more than any other song on this album. A lot of the time on this record you have some very interesting ambience that works their way underneath each track, guitar riffs that are just slathered in reverb, and I'm talking like these things were dipped in the same river that Achilles was. It's like reverbed to shit, but not in a bad way. I'm talking about in the same vein as like a Loveless. Of course, I can't talk about shoegaze without bringing up that band. But I think that's very interesting here because you can definitely tell that My Bloody Valentine has a big part in this output. I can actually see a lot of influences worked into this album. Maybe The Cure, maybe Susie and the Banshees. It's also interesting to note that Triángulo de Amor Bizarro is the Spanish translation of Bizarre Love Triangle, which is a song from New Order, of which I assume they enjoy, they like, and whatnot. Now, despite the influences, this still has its own world that it lives in. It's carved out a niche for itself in, the genre of like noise pop and indie rock, but not like stale, boring, overdone indie rock, like the one that's interesting, innovative, and forward-thinking. I can also see this album being the catalyst to someone exploring more experimental music, because there are moments that kind of remind me of like an ambient or a drone album like I alluded to earlier, but it's not completely that genre. The most I would say are probably the short tracks that happen on this album, like the song Sif Paga, as well as the last track on the album, which is bridged together from the track before it, CURA mi CORAZÓN, which, the way this album ends is just godly. It's heavenly vocal harmonies that are incorporated towards the end of the song with the female vocalist. Everything comes together with these rising guitar riffs that happen towards the latter half of the song, and man, I'm literally ascending listening to this song. Also, everything is mixed really well too. Like, I gotta say, for an indie rock album and for a noise pop album, I'm definitely not hearing a lot of moments that sound like they're clipping or that sound like they're distorted. Everything sounds really refined and everything sounds very touched up, but this is definitely not an album I would consider clean in any way, shape, or form, and that is a good thing. The only moments I would probably say are a little less than great are some of the transitional moments from track 7 to track 9, with that track 8 part, which I don't feel like completely is bridged together with a song. I also think Caligula 2025 could have been a little more impactful. But other than that, I found the riffs on a lot of these songs, I found the drum work to be really good too, and just overall the mixing of this record is really good. But other than that, I found this album to be a really great freaking little indie rock album that I just happily discovered, with guitar riffs that, again, are slathered in reverb. At some points can be very uplifting and very anthemic, other points can be just pure fun and energetic, like on the opening track, Ruptura. Slower, more melancholy moments like on the track No ERES 2, and the singing and songwriting are done in Spanish. I can't really fully comprehend them because, what you know, I don't speak Spanish, but even then, that's not really something you should be looking at completely. Just because you don't understand what they're saying doesn't mean you can't vibe with, I guess, the sound that they're creating. Look, if I find out in the future that they're actually saying something racist and misogynistic, then I'm gonna look like a fool. But at the end of the day, I think the sounds on this record are really enjoyable. Something I go back to over and over and over again, and I get something out of it each time. And this is probably Spain's best kept secret up until this point. And if there's anything that comes out of Spain that's better than this, then they're hiding Atlantis. I know it. I'm just saying, if they can hide something this good from us for this long, they're hiding Atlantis. They know where Atlantis is. Okay, it might be a little ridiculous. I'm gonna end the review. I'm gonna say listen to this album, please. If you like noisy indie rock that's not too noisy, then I think you will enjoy what's on this album. And screw the language barrier, just screw it, okay? And if you're very interested in learning what they're saying on this album, go look it up yourself. For me personally, it's an A- and nothing more. However, I am curious to know, are you going to listen to this album? And if you have, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Let me know how I can improve future videos down below. Remember, this is only my opinion because music is subjective.